All right, there's a lot of big stories coming out of Washington, D.C., some of them breaking. To help me go through them from a legal perspective, I have Mike Howell. Mike, thank you for joining me again.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So, Mike is the president of the Oversight Project. He's testified in front of Congress many times. I found this disturbing. You've got Judge Boasberg, who they now want to impeach, and you've got special counsel Jack Smith. Together, they decide that it's okay to spy on 8 Republican members of Congress. I find this wrong. I find this disturbing. What I also find disturbing is now Lindsey Graham and others, they've written into a bill the ability to sue the government and enrich themselves by $500,000. So I get that they were spied on, but why should Lindsey Graham get nearly 3 years of his salary from the American taxpayer for something that Jack Smith did? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's atrocious, and it's a lot more than just 500,000. It's 500K per line of data that's accessed. He was on TV the other day saying he wants to break the piggy bank open for this one. It is corruption. It is rank corruption. It's in your face. It wasn't just 8 senators that were spied on. It's a lot of people, a lot of conservative activists. In my line of work over the last few years, I have worked hand in glove with victims of weaponization, real people in the country, including those contingent electors that President Trump just pardoned last weekend. These are people the Republican Party left out to die. Okay, those lawyers didn't support them. They didn't have these fundraisers. There are people still suffering tremendous financial and reputational and even criminal consequences. And so for a United States senator who has every institutional advantage in the world, Lindsey Graham didn't waste a single cent on this of his own money. He has the support of donors and committees and everything. He's got every advantage there is. And for those senators to put in a corrupt carve-out just for them to get rich and to basically tell DOJ they have to stand down is atrocious. It's one of the worst things I've seen in politics. Lindsey Graham should resign. I'm going to fight this in court. We're going to fight this at every single level. The House, with our cooperation, is pushing forward a standalone bill that needs to pass the Senate now to get this taken out. And we're going to name names. We're going to put every resource we have behind it. It is a flipping on its head of what should be happening. The senators should be fighting for us, not for themselves. And so we're going to, we'll fight the senators. And see you soon, Lindsey Graham. We'll fight you in court. We'll fight you in the court of public opinion. I'm not going to let a single dime go to Lindsey Graham for this. Not a single dime. You got my word.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. I appreciate everything that you're doing. Here's what Trump's former lawyer, Christina Bobb, had to say about this.
No, not at all. They should be absolutely embarrassed. I don't know where the bill is in the process, but I sure hope that gets stricken. That should not make it through. I mean, if anything, it's bad enough they put it in there, but at least if you're going to write it in, that anybody on the Arctic Frost list gets a minimum of $500,000, because what they're basically saying is, oh, the J6ers, the Arctic Frost, the electors, all these people, they can go sue in Washington, D.C., and they'll get a fair jury there. But for these senators, they get a statutory minimum of $500,000 for every offense. It's not equal. It's not fair. So
some of these guys could become multi-millionaires, and it doesn't come out of Judge Boasberg's pocket. It doesn't come out of Jack Smith's pocket. It comes out of our pocket. So I love the fact that you guys are saying, Lindsey Graham, others, no, we're absolutely going to shut this thing down. This is abuse of the American taxpayer.
That's right. And, we should never lose the mantle of being on the side of good government and fighting corruption. These types of things are why Americans hate Congress. And, we were active in the Hunter Biden investigation and the Biden corruption. And so are many of these senators. We're happy to speak out against it. But now they're doing something far worse. And it's naked. It's transparent. And we cannot allow Republicans to give up the mantle of good government and accountability. That's why the Oversight Project exists. We exist because they failed. And we're going to make them feel the pain for this one. I think if this goes forward, kiss the midterms goodbye. You can't expect people to show up and be active and support this type of activity. It's naked corruption. I don't know if this even got the White House's attention. It was snuck in at the last minute. Senator Thune put it in himself, is the word on the street. But, judging by Lindsey Graham's reaction, he seems to be the driving force. You got Senator Schmidt speaking out against it. So he's the good leader here. I hope more of his colleagues stand behind Senator Schmidt. This is real. It's a real threat to the political viability of the Republican Party. If instead of fixing the core problem they were set there to do, they instead try to get rich off it. I saw that during January 6th. I started, taking pro bono work because the law firms around town and the political machinery left all these people out to dry. That needs to be flipped on its head, and this is the fight worth fighting.
Okay. I saw Senator Marsha Blackburn said she was also against the financial. She just wants the system fixed. Let me switch gears with you on this. So President Trump has come out. He said that Biden was cognitively impaired. There's no paper trail to almost all of the pardons. They should be null and void. He's asked AG Pam Bondi to look into this, to get back to him, and to remove this. I'm not seeing any traction on this. Anything that you know about making those null and void?
Yeah, so we got a disagreement between the president and his subordinate staff at the Department of Justice here. It's pretty obvious. Since we broke this scandal wide open in March, President Trump brings it up every other day, it seems. I mean, they got an image of the auto pen in place of Joe Biden at the White House. You said null and void how many different times? Yet DOJ is still operating as if they're perfectly good. They haven't charged anyone. And the ghost of the auto pen is still ruling. You have people that are getting let out of prison by the Trump administration at the Department of Justice. Then when the president says those auto pen actions are no good. And so we're seeing violent criminals back on the streets, and they need to take action. I don't know how many times there can be an announcement of some new investigation or request. It's time to do something. And we've laid out every aspect in which how they could do this. And it's not going away. The American people expect accountability, and they want to see President Trump's words fall through on with the actions of the Department of Justice. And it's not happening, and I don't think it will happen unless we keep pointing out that discrepancy.
Okay. So not long ago, there was this No Kings rally that happened. They're saying 7 million people came out to remind Donald Trump he's not a king, right? Now they're revising those numbers. They think it was actually closer to 2 million. But either way, this is a president who has been sued more than any other president, but he's also gone to court on everything. So he hasn't just said, screw you guys, I'm the president clothed in power, like in the Abraham Lincoln movie. He's gone to court. And in most cases, he ends up winning in court. So is this Trump is a king, even though he follows the law and goes to court? Is this just a facade in order to have something to get the Democrat voters frothing at the mouth and angry about something?
100%. I mean, this whole messaging narrative arc, which I think they recognize has failed. There's writing out there that the line attacks on democracy didn't work. I mean, there is polling out there that also said President Trump and Republicans are, trusted to defend democracy more than Democrats. But I think what happened, honestly, was when the Biden campaign was in trouble, they had a lot of Hollywood types come in. And this is just like a script of a Marvel movie they're trying to sell to the American people. That it's this, evil bad guys plotting against democracy, and he's like a king. And there's really no thought or substance behind it. They just think it sells because that's how you would make a bad movie. That's why you have these Hollywood people saying, hey, we do this in movies. Why don't we try this in politics? And it just has fallen flat on its face because people do see what you just said. President Trump is working through the system. I mean, he's not ruling with an iron fist. He's spending all of his time and attention with this administration and fighting back in court at every level. You have people unlawfully interfering with ICE every single day. There's a lot of legal activity going on in this country, but it's not from the Trump administration.
All right. So they paint him as a Thanos in a Marvel movie. He just comes in, snaps his finger, gets whatever he wants because nobody can defeat him, not even the Avengers. But in reality, they're spending so much money and time in court, but he ends up coming out ahead. Let me ask you about this. There was some breaking news just in the last couple of days. Eric Swalwell, Trump hater, every day that Trump was in front of Engoron and Boasberg and others, he was saying how corrupt this president was, that he was defrauding financial institutions, that he deserved to go to jail for the rest of his life. Well, now he's being accused of mortgage fraud as well as tax fraud. Do you see this going anywhere? Is this just your thoughts?
So mortgage fraud and tax fraud are document crimes, right? Like, and so you either put something on paper that was true or you did it. And so he's in a pickle, right? I'm sure he's going to argue that they're only picking on me because I'm just this tool that they hate. But the documents will tell the story there, and you wouldn't raise the specter of that unless the documents did say something. So what do they say on the internet? FAO, screw around and find out.
Yeah.
To put it politely, it looks like we got a little version of that going on.
Okay. So that's a really great point. With Biden, my understanding is, they might say, okay, it's a little bit hard to prove on August 8th of 2024 that he was mentally impaired that day, right? But with this, like you say, these are documents. Letitia James, she signed that she's married to her dad. She signed that this would be a primary residence. She signed that she was going to move there. She signed that it was a 4-unit versus a 5. Same thing with Eric Swalwell. He's living in multiple places. Same thing with Adam Schiff. Like, do you live in DC? Do you live in Maryland? Do you live in California? So you believe that these have teeth and that they're going to go somewhere.
Yeah, you wouldn't bring them unless the document said that. I mean, last thing you want is to give Eric Swalwell a victory in court, right? So you only pull up when you're ready to roll. And it looks like they're pulling up on Eric Swalwell.
Okay. Have you read about how they're trying to now dismiss Halligan? Saying that she wasn't actually appointed. I mean, they did this with Trump's other lawyer up in New Jersey, where they said, oh, she wasn't properly put in. Now they're saying Attorney Halligan wasn't properly put in and that she has no authority to go after Letitia James. Is this them just trying to slow this down or find any kind of technicality to protect Letitia James?
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. Fundamentally, what all these legal challenges are about is trying to deny President Trump the ability to actually be president. And that, relates to the people he picks and where he puts them. I'll tell you, the U.S. Senate has done him no favors here. Clinging to, this blue slip tradition, they're basically not allowing Trump to put in confirmed U.S. attorneys. And we need those people if we're going to win the weaponization war. You got to have, those 90-some offices filled with people who are aligned and actually want to do the job. And the Senate's not doing them any favors by not confirming those people. This happened with, Ed Martin, whose confirmation I worked on, very closely with him. And look where he ended up. Now he's the weaponization czar and the pardon attorney. So that's a good story there. But by and large, like, these offices are vacant. And we put out stats that are dated now, but most of the people still in those top spots of the U.S. attorney offices, they came in during like the Obama or Biden administration. And the Senate knows this. They're trying to handicap Trump's ability to actually do things. All that being said, like, they figured out the workaround here. And of course, it's being met, like everything else, with legal challenges as to Trump's authority to do it. But I think ultimately they'll win. I mean, the notion that the president gets to pick U.S. attorneys and his staff at the DOJ is beyond question, and that's the fight we're going to see play out. And we'll see it play out in a million different contexts. But it's the same, core tactic and legal question there.
Okay. Mike, what can you tell me and my audience about? I'm hearing that there's grand juries planned in the state of Florida for Arctic frost and looking into special counsel Jack Smith. Are you hearing that? Is this rumor, or are we going to actually see grand juries in a Republican state where we might actually get some justice and accountability?
Yeah, I've seen the same reporting. I'll pause just for a second to say matters relating to grand juries are, really sensitive and confidential. And so, like, I've seen the same reporting, but, there's not much flexibility for the administration to, like, announce all of these things and the details. But a lot of really smart people have pointed that this is the right way to go. I absolutely agree with it. We need to get out of DC, particularly because the Trump administration right now isn't really going to challenge the authority of DC in meaningful ways as it relates to, home rule and the appointment of some of these judges, which I think are unconstitutional. People forget, like, the federal government owns Washington, DC, right? And we haven't seen the assertion of authority over it. DC sues Trump all the time. And I yell from the rooftops, why are you letting your subordinates sue you, right? You just tell them what to do. Get rid of home rule. Stop letting Bowser just, politically posture against you. And it's an area that, we're going to push DOJ, as we always do. Go further. You don't need to be wasting time and letting these guys sue you all day long. They work for you and they work for us, and let's put them in their place.
Okay. You probably saw this, but eight Democrats came out and said the government has been closed for 40 days. We've got nearly 1 million people out of work. They've taken $500 million in loans in order to survive. We had to get a private donation to keep the military. The Democrats put us in a national security issue. They then used hungry children as a pawn in the chess game that they wanted to play. These 8 have come out and voted to reopen the government. That has happened now. Now the Democrat machine is saying we will ruin your life. We will primary you. Does that shock you at all? I mean, I was a little bit shocked, but at the same time, if you break from ranks with Democrats, they just do everything they can to eat you alive.
That's right. And I think those 8 senators know that they're probably not going to survive a primary now. The Democrat Party has been taken over by the most radical elements. And you saw that with Chuck Schumer folding to like Mondami and such. It's humiliating for a lot of them. And so I think I take these 8 votes to say, like, we're sick of this. We're not going to play, let the tail wag the dog of the far left here. And we know that if we do this and reopen the government, which is the right thing to do for the country, the mob will come for us. And so I take that vote potentially to be like a resignation notice, but that's what it's come to.
Yeah. Well, and I also saw that it looks like Senator John Fetterman has been hospitalized. He had some kind of fibrillation issue with his heart. He fell on his face. Democrats are literally mocking him. And he had just barely done an interview where he said that he was actually shocked that the meanest people to him were actually far left Democrats. I mean, are they just devolving into the worst of the worst?
Yeah. I think it's a real scary problem for this country. You would hope that like the path of radicalization on the left would be tempered and that there would be some adults in the DNC and others who thought this was too far. But after the election of Mondami and Jay Jones, shoot 'em up guy in Virginia, I think they realized, no, that's a demand signal. Like, we're going to go the crazy route. And people like Fetterman, are out there courageously calling it out. And I'm no fan of Fetterman's politics overall, but like he's actually contending with, I think, this really important, not only conversation internal to the Democrats, but for this whole country. We're going to have a major American political party that's been overtaken by just radical elements. And Schumer's the story there. He's just bowed down to him so he could keep his job instead of doing the principled thing and trying to, be an adult. And it's going to be a crazy radical politics for the years to come.
Okay. Final question. Last week there was this big breaking story that there was a 94 to 98% certainty that this ex-Capitol police officer was the January 6th pipe bomber. But I'm not seeing the FBI move on this. I'm not seeing the DOJ. It looks like she has now hired a very high power legal firm that has come out and said, there's nothing here, no need to investigate. What would be the next steps? Are they going to question her? Are they how do we rule out, other than just her word, that it wasn't her when there's so many things matching?
Yeah, great question. It seems to me, Steve Baker's a good friend. I'm a contributor for the Blaze too. I mean, that report went absolutely bananas. But, the reaction from the federal government and allies in the communication space seems to be trying to discredit the reporting, which is bizarre. But, the FBI hasn't, to our knowledge, made much progress on this investigation whatsoever. And so the addition of new information relevant to it, I think, should be greeted with actual, seriousness. She's going to sue and probably benefit from the fact that it seems, that the FBI is trying to push down this reporting for reasons I don't know. I mean, this was a huge priority for this administration going in. And if you recall, they put a guy who was the architect of the January 6th case, is Steve Jensen, in charge of the investigation. And we were told that he was going to get it solved, and it didn't get solved. And he's since been let go. And so, like, there are just tons of question marks abound. And, you know, the last couple of days, the FBI started a rapid response Twitter account, ostensibly for the purposes of like countering, you know, narratives against the FBI. And it seems like it's just spilled into a comms fight. And I'm sitting here thinking, like, can we catch this damn pipe bomber? Like, and stop worrying about just like online, you know, perceptions and reputations. That seems to be a priority above and beyond anything else right now. And you know, I think a lot of people are kind of getting sick of it.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, my first questions would be, I'm not an investigative journalist. I'm not a private investigator. I have no law enforcement, but I would think it was like, okay, we know that this person is this height, match. Okay. Show us the algorithm and the software you used to show a 95% match to the way that this person uniquely walks. Okay. Where was this person's cell phone? Does this person have any alibis? Does this person have a gray sweater? Like, does this person own those unique black and yellow Nikes? Can anyone corroborate any of this? And then, okay, we're going to open an investigation. But just to sit back, you know, like, I like Dan Bongino, but he put out this long message saying, you guys don't know what you're talking about. The FBI, you know, we've brought in all of these new people. I just think it's really weird that it was the Blaze that is getting to the bottom of this and not the FBI.
Yeah, well, the Blaze does great work, and that's why I'm happy to be a contributor there. But I mean, look, a lot of the investigative, you know, trends of recent years have been coming from like independent journalists and others on this. And, you know, we're waiting on the FBI to really put some points on the board on this investigation, but people aren't going to just sit around and wait, you know, like, and so they're proceeding.
Okay. All right. Mike, thank you so much. What are your next steps when it comes to shutting down Lindsey Graham? Or is Congress going to, on their own, say, hey guys, we know you got spied on, that sucks, but we're gonna do a single voter issue bill, and we're going to remove that. You can't become multimillionaires off the American people.
Yeah, first steps trying to get the Senate to take up the House bill and then get it ripped off. And so we're going to be applying as much political and public pressure as possible to that end. And then moving forward, we're going to think of ways to legally challenge this. It's a terrible look. And I think that the Trump White House probably recognizes that now, that if you can't, you know, go into a midterm season where your top like senators are so blatantly invested in a self-serving corruption endeavor, which this nakedly is.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much. I know you guys are hard at work doing FOIA and lawsuits and holding both sides accountable, including the Republicans. Thank you so much. If people want to follow you online, where can I point them towards?
Yeah, I'm on X at mhaltweets, and Oversight Project is at It's Your Gov, because it's your government, people. They work for you. And it doesn't look like that all the time, but we're trying to reassert that principle.
Okay. Thank you so much. I hope you have a great rest of your day.